right, guys. So I just want to start off very clearly from the beginning and explain to you guys I wouldn't be up here facing my fears, facing my nerves, and all that stuff unless I truly cared about what I'm about to tell you and that I truly cared and loved you guys enough to know the message of Jesus Christ and his gospel. And last week, Pastor Jonas went over on how the church is for everybody. And I, for many years, 29 years of my life, didn't feel that the church was for me at all. In fact, I went the complete opposite direction. But the truth is that it truly is for everyone, okay? And I'm going to get into that. But before I do, have you guys ever heard a bad story? Like your friend's telling you a story and you're like, dude, could you please stop telling a story? Like, cool, bro. We don't really care. Right? You guys heard those stories? Yeah. I've heard plenty of them in my life. But I'm going to tell you guys a story about me and my best friend here. And in that picture, you could see we thought we were some pretty cool dudes, right? I mean, we had the motorcycles, the leather vest, the gun in the background, the American flag. We thought we were something cool. But the truth is that I was lost. I was extremely lost, and so was my friend. And back in those days, we just wanted to be cool. We wanted to fit in with the world. We wanted to fit in with what was cool at the time, drinking and drugs and smoking weed and all that type of stuff. That's so appealing, right? Exactly. And it's not cool. And what we did back in those days was tell stories that glorified our sin. Like, hey, bro, remember how messed up we got last night? Oh, dude, remember that time we drunk drove our motorcycles and things like that? Like, those aren't cool stories. I'm just going to tell you straight up. They're not cool stories at all. And it started at a very young age. And in fact, it started when I was your guys' age, in 6th grade, matter of fact. I grew up in a Christian family, or so I thought. And we went to a very traditional church every once in a while. But our family, we didn't pray. We didn't really glorify God in our household and things like that. But I turned away because it didn't make sense to me. I thought it was weird. I thought it was boring. I saw a lot of hypocrisy. And I was like, how could Jesus be the truth whenever there's so many different religions that involve his name? Like, you have all these different denominations, and you have all these different people claiming his name, and these mega churches who seem that they just want money and all this stuff, right? So from an early age, I turned away. About 6th grade, I was like, absolutely not going down that road. I was not led to Christ at all. And I started getting into false worship. I started to draw literal pentagrams on my binders and get into bands like Slipknot and all these dark, dark things from a very early age, okay? And it was because I wanted to fit in. And I fell into a life of darkness, into idol worship, sin, anxiety, fear, depression. I was suicidal at times. Like, I was wandering in the desert. And if you've read the Bible, you know what I'm saying. I was wandering in the world, lost, without any direction or any higher aim, okay? I just did not get it. And so was my friend Hayden. We were both the same. And we've been friends since 2nd grade, so we've known each other a long time. So I didn't realize at the time that Jesus is a relationship, and it's not religion. And when I say religion, I'm talking about man-made doctrine that they put on top of the Bible, man-made rules, false doctrine, things that God never said. The idea that you have to earn your way to heaven, you have to do all these things to get to heaven. That's what I thought. And so during my life, I was like, well, I've already basically gone down the drain with all those, so I'm essentially on my way to hell according to what all these Christians are telling me, or so I thought, right? And I just didn't get it. But it truly is a relationship over religion. And when I was, so here in Luke 18, 9 through 14, Christ is talking and he's saying, to some who were confident in their own righteousness and looked down upon everyone else, Jesus told this parable. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. And if you don't know what a Pharisee is, it's basically like this Jewish religious person who is very strict in the law of God, obeys the 10 Commandments and all these things, right? And the other was a tax collector. And tax collectors in those days, much like Pastor Jonas has said in the past, they were despised. Like they weren't good people at all. And the Pharisee stood by himself and prayed. And he said, God, I thank you that I'm not like the other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, and I give 1/10 of all I get. How good am I, right? That's what he's saying. How good am I? I'm awesome. And he continues to say, but the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but he beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, talking about the Pharisee, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. So like I said, I saw Jesus as religion. I saw him as the Pharisee. That you had to abide in all these rules, that you had to go to a man in a robe to understand the Bible or to understand God or to have a relationship with God. That's what I thought, because that's how I grew up, okay? And the difference is that religion is man-made doctrine, and Jesus is sitting here trying to tell us that it is a gift freely given to each and every single one of us. And it's a relationship of love. And religion is saying, follow these rules and follow these regulations. And Jesus is saying, I want a relationship with you and to follow me, which leads us to follow those laws that the Pharisees were so righteous in their own ways talking about, okay? The gospel is an encounter, okay? In Romans 10, 9 through 10, it says, because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved. And I had heard these things throughout my life, and quite frankly, I didn't get it because I was so turned off to the idea of church and God and Jesus and all these things. In fact, there's many times I blasphemed Jesus. I blasphemed God. In fact, I have tattoos of false idols and false gods and all sorts of darkness like that I had gotten into. And I was really miserable. And my buddy Hayden, who you guys saw in that picture, and I walked down this life for so long that eventually we didn't even have those cool stories to tell people. We both ended up alone. He got into dealing drugs. We were doing all sorts of stuff. I ended up getting arrested because I was chasing after that life. I had no direction. And that's where that darkness led me, was to being arrested, to loneliness, to suicidal thoughts. And I thought that I was doing things right. I was following the ways of the world. I thought that you get a house, you get a college education, you chase after women, you do all these things, right? That's what the world's saying, that's what's going to make you happy, right? But in reality, I found myself at the end of it alone, depressed, sad, and I had all those things. I had a nice car, I had a house, I had everything you could ever ask for from the world. But there was something that I was deeply, deeply missing and searching for. And during this desperate time of my life, I had come to the end of myself. And so I started to investigate the world. I didn't get it. I didn't understand why the world was so evil. I didn't understand all the things that were going on. And so I started to educate myself. I started to read books and listen to podcasts and, try my best to become a better person because I knew the road I was going down wasn't right. I knew that I was doing something wrong, and so I tried to stop drinking on my own free will. I had tried all these things, right? I tried to do it on my own, but I kept falling and falling and falling and falling. And I was so frustrated that every religion I looked into, there'd be partial truths, and then it would just collapse on itself. all these new age gods, astrology, all this stuff, all these things I was looking into. It's like, yeah, it's cool. It's appealing at first. It draws you in. But then you get into it and you're like, that's just absolutely incorrect and not true. Because it eventually ends up not making sense. And you're hearing this from a guy who literally has zodiac signs tattooed on my shoulder and the new age stuff on my body, right? That's how deep I was into this. And during this desperate search, I eventually got to this weird place where I was looking into quantum physics and all this stuff, which I couldn't even begin to explain that to you. I don't even know how I was getting into it. But I had a revelation that the world couldn't have come from nothing. Something can't come from nothing. There had to be a creator. There's no way possible. It just could have been a Big Bang, as people would like to describe it. It just doesn't make sense. It's not a valid thing. That's why they call it a theory. And so when I thought this, I felt this voice in my head. And during this time, I want you to understand that I was by myself. I had moved up outside of the military. I just got out of the military. I had moved up here, and I was so done with the world, guys. This is how crazy, and you guys aren't even going to believe this. I got rid of my smartphone, my Xbox, all that stuff. I had a dumb phone because I was just so done with the world, and I was just lost. And so I started to garden, weirdly enough. It was like the last thing in my life that I would have ever thought that I would be doing. But I started to do it. And as I was doing it, I kept hearing this voice saying, come to me, come to me, come to me. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't understand. But deep down, I knew that it was Jesus calling me home. And I finally was sitting there, and I just decided, you know what? There's one thing that I had never looked into, and it was Jesus Christ in the Bible. My dad had always told me, just read the Bible, read the Bible, read the Bible. And I was like, I'm not reading that thing, bro. Like, I'm not going to read it. When I got arrested, they took me to talk to their pastor, and I was like, don't even talk to me about Jesus Christ. That's how much I did not want to hear about it. I thought the whole thing was weird. I didn't want it, but I heard this voice, and it just kept saying, come to me, come to me. And I was like, you know what? There has to be a creator, and it has to be Jesus Christ. And so I went to my room, and I was by myself. I wasn't going to church. Like I said, I wasn't reading the Bible, wasn't interested remotely in investigating that. And I got on my knees, and I just began to pray. And I said, God, if you are real, I need you to show me, because I'm desperate, and I'm suffering, and I don't know how much longer I could go in this life without you, if you are real. Like, if you're real, I need you to make yourself known to me right now, in this moment. And as I was starting to pray this, I felt this overwhelming love enter into my heart, okay? This overwhelming, engulfing love. And before now, I couldn't cry. That's how emotionless and dead I was inside. I couldn't cry. I didn't have emotions. I was just totally depressed. And I began to just weep like I had never wept before in my entire life, because I felt this presence enter the room. And it's like I knew exactly what I needed to start doing. I started to repent, which means to say sorry for all of the things that I had done in my life. And as I was repenting and saying I'm sorry, I very clearly heard a voice from God that said, you are forgiven. You're my son. I've been wanting you to come to me this whole time. And I just couldn't control my sobbing, because I knew in that moment it was Jesus Christ speaking to me. And I had turned away from him for so long. I had blasphemed him. I had done everything wrong that you could possibly imagine. Anything that you guys are doing that you could imagine as sin or wrong, I was doing it. There's nothing you could say that would surprise me. I was doing it. And he said, you're forgiven. You're my son. All I've ever wanted was your heart. I didn't want all the other stuff. And so I just broke. And during this time, as I was praying, I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't get it. I didn't know. Everything about you is so confusing in this world. So many people use your name. So many people, like, do everything to confuse you away. And so I was broken, man. And he came into my life and forgave me after all that sin and all of that time of blaspheming him and running away from him. And as I was going through this with him, I began to get these visions where I was just standing there with him. And he showed me all these visions of the times when I should be dead. There's times when I was drunk driving my motorcycle, getting speed wobbles, and he had sent angels to save my life. He had been there when I was overdosing on drugs and saved my life. He had been there in so many moments where I should have died. And I can't even begin to express to you guys that I should be dead so many times over, dude. There's been times in the military I should be dead. I mean, dozens of times, okay? And as he was showing me this, I just began to soften my heart more and more and more to him. And then I very clearly heard him say, now that you know the truth, I need you to go out and reconcile the people closest to you. And then there's going to be a lot more that I want you to go tell about me. And I want you to tell them exactly what you needed to hear about me when you were lost. And so a part of me was kind of like, am I losing my mind right now? Because what is even going on, you know? But I knew it was Jesus. And so I still didn't trust church. I didn't get it. I still didn't want to go to church. And I told him, I want you to teach me. I'm going to get my Bible and I'm going to start reading. And I just want you to teach me. I don't want man to teach me. I had a lot of trust issues. I didn't want anything to do with pastors. I didn't want anything to do with priests. None of it. I wanted God to teach me the Bible. And so I said, I want you to teach me the Bible. I don't even know where to go for church. I don't even know anything about that because my mind was still stuck in that rhythm. And so I sat on my porch and I picked this thing up right here, bro. This, the Bible. And I started to read it. And as I started to read it, I would pray. And I would say, I just want you to tell me what you need to tell me in this thing. I want you to make it known to me what I need to know. And as I was reading it, I just got hit and hit and hit. And I began to realize that everything that I thought that I knew about Jesus Christ was an absolute lie. Satan does a real good job about using Jesus' name and confusing people away from him. Okay? And as I read that Bible, I realized that everything I'd ever known about him was absolutely false. And that all he truly wants is your heart. He wants a relationship with you. He wants to save you down a certain path of destruction. And I'm just going to be totally honest with you guys. If you don't worship God, you will worship something else. And I worshiped a lot of other things. And they appear as light. That's what the enemy does. It appears as light, okay? And so you think it's cool and you get into it. And then it just wrecks you. Just wrecks your life. It isolates you. It takes you away, okay? And so I'm reading this Bible and I'm like, dude, this is crazy. Not only does it have every single answer I ever needed to know about this world, it tells me everything about myself, and it tells me everything I need to know about having purpose and direction in life. And I was like, I can't believe that I've never heard any of these words before. And yet I've had so many Christians in my life, and they had never talked about it. And I quickly began to realize that I don't think most of the Christians in my life have even read the Bible. And that was true. They hadn't read the Bible. They had simply just said they believed in Jesus, which is fine. To each their own, but they had not read the Bible, and that's how you get to know God and what he really has to say. And if you ask me, it doesn't even make sense not to read the Bible if you have the knowledge that there is God. It doesn't even make sense. Why wouldn't you want to get to know him? Why wouldn't you want to know what he has to say to you? And so I sat there and I just read and studied, and as I was going through this, I realized that we're actually called to do a lot of stuff as a Christian. There's actually a lot of things we're supposed to be doing. And I realized that faith without action is dead. And that's why so many don't want to believe in Jesus, is because so many Christians are out there not living in action. Okay? And so I heard very clearly, as I told you guys, to go reconcile people. And I didn't know what that meant at that time. But after reading the Bible, I knew exactly what I had to do. And I am jumping off the walls, dude. I'm going out telling everybody about Jesus Christ. I'm going out to the stores. I'm going out into public, on social media. I started reading the Bible online, just straight up reading the scripture, because I was like, I don't think anyone's heard the Bible without man-made opinion involved in it. So I was like, I'm just going to read the scripture, and I'm just going to start posting it online, see what happens. Dude, I'm telling you, it blew up to hundreds of thousands of views just because I started reading the Bible. I couldn't even believe it. And I started to preach to my sisters and my friends and everybody, everywhere I went, like I was telling you guys. And I would pray for them, pray. I never believed in the power of prayer before. I thought it was bogus. But I began to pray, and I just watched God move like I have never experienced in my life. I was like, holy smokes. I'd pray for my sister, boom, she gets saved. Pray for my other sister, boom, she gets saved. I started to pray for my good friend Hayden, and boom, he gets saved, right? It's like, holy smokes, man, God is awesome. And I just keep walking down this road and keep praying and reading his word and getting to know him. And so eventually I got to the point where I was like, no, actually, church is a good thing. I just need to find a good one. And years ago, I had actually come here to Church on the Rock when I was in one of my lowest moments after I had gotten out of a bad relationship with an ex. I was just seriously broken. And so I came here on a Sunday and I sat in the back, didn't talk to anyone. And the sermon actually hit me so hard I started crying. But back then I had convinced myself that, sermons are curated for, everyone, they put generalized messages so, everyone feels good and all that stuff. And I was like, no way, no. And that was like 10 years ago. And I was like, no, at that time. But I came back because I was driving past and I felt like God told me to come here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go there and I need to talk to a pastor because I just want to make sure I'm on the right track here. And that's when I met Pastor Paul Sliwa. I know a lot of you guys know him. And I told him my story, and that's, inevitably how I got involved here with you guys at youth. But I was like, hey, bro, because I had read the Bible, and I was like, dude, I need to get baptized. I want to publicly proclaim my faith and in front of everybody, okay? And so I had never known what love was before Jesus Christ. And he truly was my first love and will always be my first love. And I know if you're not a Christian, that could sound weird, but I'm telling you, man, I really didn't understand love because the world perverts it, that word, so bad. It's not even close to the love that Jesus Christ has for you. And so I came here and I was like, hey, Paul, man, like, I really love it. If you baptize me. Paul was really the only guy I knew here. And it was scary for me. I actually pulled in the parking lot and I was about to turn around the day I was supposed to get baptized because the enemy likes to stay in your head and make you be scared. And so I almost caved, but I didn't. God was like, no. Get in there and you're going to go get baptized and it's going to be fine. And so I come in and I get baptized, and I'm in this room full of people that were cheering me on. And I was like, what? Because I still had these preconceived notions. I'm covered in tattoos. I'd been an alcoholic my whole life. I'd been arrested and all these things. And I come in here, and these people are just cheering for me. And I was like, what? I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is what it should be, And so I just felt this love. And so I fell in love with his church as my second love, dude. I was just like, these people are like doing the only good that I see in the world here. And they're actually showing love and they're actually showing compassion for a guy like me. I never thought it was even possible. And what I didn't understand before is that church isn't a building. It's not a denomination. It's a loving gathering in unity under God's authority, not man's authority, okay? It's a gathering. It doesn't have to be in a building. It doesn't have to be in a temple and all these things. It's literally a few Christians could gather up wherever they are, and that's God's church. That's how that works. And I didn't understand that. And like I said, God told me to go reconcile. And as I was, going out and posting on Facebook and just losing my mind for Jesus, quite honestly, I was just getting after. I still am to this day. That's why I'm up here. But my friend Hayden, who you guys saw in that picture, calls me. He goes, "Hey, man, I think we should talk. I'm kind of worried about you, bro. I'm kind of worried about you." And I was like, I already knew where I was going. And I was like, "Sure, man, let's talk. Like, I would love to talk. We're brothers, bro, of course." And so I head to his house, and we're hanging out in his garage. And he goes, "Hey, man, it's the Jesus thing. We're kind of worried about you. Like, me and the family, I'd lived with his family. I'd gotten kicked out of my house, and so I'm very close with his parents and all that stuff, and they're good people, but they were all worried about me, thought I had lost my mind because I'm out here talking about Jesus the whole time." And I go, "Okay." I was like, "I totally get that, bro. I really do. I get that." And I was like, "Do you want to know about it? Because I'll just tell you right now, everything that me and you knew about it was an absolute lie." And he goes, "Dude, you're my brother." Like, you could tell he was kind of like, "Yeah, man, I guess." But so I just start telling him, and I'm like, "Bro, everything we knew about it is a total lie. I've read the Bible. I know what it says now. I've met God in my house by myself." And I just start telling him what I'm telling you guys about this love that I had encountered. And as I'm telling it to him, and this is a pretty hardcore dude, man. I mean, he was into some pretty hardcore stuff, the biker lifestyle. I mean, he was way more involved in it than I was, riding around with all sorts of troublemakers and things like that. And I'm watching his face as the Holy Spirit's working through me, speaking to him, and he's just jaw-dropped. And tears begin to come down his face. And I go, "Yeah, bro, everything we knew about this world and about God is an absolute lie." And I won't lie, it was a very hard transition for both of us because it flipped our worlds upside down. Because when you meet Jesus, you realize that, wow, this world is totally backwards. And so I told him all this stuff, told him about God, told him what I learned and everything. And I go, "Man, you don't have to go that route right now, but I would like if you come to this church with me. I found this church that they seem pretty legit. They seem like they're talking about the real stuff in the Bible. The people seem really cool there. They didn't turn me away because I have tattoos, and they didn't judge me and act like I was some sinner and trying to condemn me and all this stuff." And he goes, "Yeah," you could see him pondering it. And I was like, "Bro, I'm telling you, man, just come one time with me." And I have to say, when we go in there, you're going to see some weird stuff, bro. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. People are going to be raising their hands like this. They're going to be doing this thing. They're going to be like, "Amen," during the service and all this stuff. It's going to come off as weird at first. But I promise you, you will understand why at some point. You will understand why they're doing that. Because even when I first started coming to church, I really didn't get it at all. I was like, "Dude, okay, so I know God, I've read the Bible, and now they're doing all this weird stuff where they're like, getting on their knees and like and I still hadn't gotten to that point yet, okay? But he accepts my offer, and we go to church, and we're sitting there listening to this sermon. I wish I could remember what it was, but at the end of service, I really felt God tug on my heart, and he goes, and to ask him to accept him. And I was like, "Hey, bro, like, what do you think about accepting Christ in your life, like right now?" And I was like, there's no process. You literally just accept him. Like, that's it. That's how easy it is. And he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, bro, I'm ready." And so we go to Pastor Pete. Some of you might have seen him around on Sundays. And I'm like, "Hey, man, it's my good friend. He wants to accept Christ right now. And he goes, yeah, man. And so my buddy accepts Christ, and now he's just absolutely lit on fire. This hardcore dude got tattoo of the crosses on his neck. I mean, he's totally sold out for God now. And this is a guy, I'm telling you, if you would have talked to him about Jesus Christ a year ago, or me, matter of fact, we would have told you, get away from me, bro. You're creeping me out. Like, go away. And now he's got, all these tattoos and stuff. And so the point of it is that the gospel is for absolutely everybody. It's for absolutely everybody, okay? And what the gospel is, because we say that, and it's like, what does that mean? It means that the God of Israel reigns. It means that Jesus Christ is God. And in Isaiah 52:7, it says, how beautiful on the mountains are the feet of the messenger who brings good news, and the good news of peace and salvation. The news that the God of Israel reigns, who is Jesus Christ. And that's what the gospel is. It's a revelation, a revealing that Jesus truly is God, okay? And he is the one who paid our debt, our sin. And I contributed greatly to his suffering. And it has been paid on the cross when he got crucified and was resurrected. And all he wants, literally all he wants, is your heart. He wants for you to come to him. He wants for you to know him. And God is for everyone, man. And so here you could see I got the privilege of baptizing my friend. And like I said, God can change absolutely anybody. And that's a good story. And that is good news. The God who encountered two men completely lost in their ways, living reckless lives, and completely changed us, completely flipped us around, healed our families. I'm getting married now, dude. I would have never thought I was getting married. He's blessed me in so many ways when I'm one of the most undeserving people probably standing in this room, okay? So I want you guys to know truly from the bottom of my heart that God is for all of you. And I do not want to see you guys go down the path that I went down because I wanted to be cool and I wanted to fit in. The gospel is for you guys. It's for you guys. It's for you guys and you and Pastor Jonas, everybody. The gospel is for absolutely everybody. And so what we're going to do right now, we're not going to do small groups, okay, tonight. We're going to make our leaders available in the back of the room. If you guys could put on a little bit of music. And if you don't know God and you don't follow this lifestyle, and I know this is some of you guys' first times here, and this you might be like, dude, what is going on, bro? If you want, you could go to our leaders for prayer. We could walk you through it. We could explain it to you more. But ultimately, dude, you could do it anytime. You could do it to yourself, praying by yourself in your house. You could do it praying with a friend. And most importantly, I want you guys to know that I don't want you guys to take my word for it. I want you guys to take Jesus Christ's word for it. And I want you to talk to him about it. And I want you to ask him. Because the one person I never asked about Jesus was Jesus. And the minute I did it, he met me like that. And he's waiting to meet all of you guys like that. Okay? So if you feel a tug on your heart and you feel like something's happening in you, you could pray that prayer. You could go to a leader and they could help guide you through that prayer. I'm going to make myself available. And if you already are a Christian and you already are following that lifestyle, I would like you to start praying for the people who might not know God right now, okay? Does that sound good? Okay. So for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm asking you guys to be respectful, to stay quiet. If you don't want to get up, because, dude, I'm telling you right now, if I was in church before and they were doing this, I would be, even if I wanted to, I'd be kind of nervous and scared to do it. And I'm saying that's okay. And you don't even have to do it right now, but we're making it available to you. And so take time, think about what I've said, think about, your life, what you want.